On this episode, go full Spock. Hey everybody, this is the Quarter Show. We're going to be talking about going full Spock. We mentioned this to our team internally. We come up with these crazy things that we analogize, if you will. But you know, it's very accurate. It's very applicable in sales because I know salespeople get riddled with concerns and considerations and emotions and back off and butterflies and all this nonsense that gives them this sort of foot shuffle, this mental foot shuffle that goes on, and they're afraid to call the prospect, or they come up with all of these different reasons. And we did this whole sales summit thing, and I was talking to one of my people, and we were talking about a deal, and I said, I was calling him on the phone. I was coming into where he was, and I said, I need you to go full Spock, and then I clarified that, and meaning that Spock has no emotion, essentially. And he is just, he just does something. He doesn't have all that other baggage or other emotion that goes into things. He just makes a very analytical decision. He's very sort of methodical about it and just goes and does it. And in sales, that's actually a very useful trait, and if you push your confront incredibly high, your ability to confront something, the ability to sort of pursue something at the highest level, and push your level of emotion or consideration way down, you can get a lot more done. And that means that if you know what needs to happen next on a deal, or you kind of look at it from the standpoint of no emotion, or the way Spock would look at something, you look at a specific deal and you say, what do I actually need to do to get this deal done? And you really take that from an analytical standpoint, from the way Spock would, and then you would just go and do it. As opposed to having what most people do is all this emotion, all this consideration, all this foot shuffle that goes on with it, which really just stops production. It makes you not pick up the phone, not send that email, not take that action, not go to the whatever, and it just paralyzes people. And so when I told this one person to do that, it was like everything became simple. He just simply was like, okay. So I was like, yeah, I need you to call this and do that and this and that. And he went and did it, and the deal closed. And those things were all technically, or perhaps a little awkward, right? It took a higher level of confront, a higher level of having to really do what might be awkward, having to make calls or communicate something that may sound awkward, like asking for money, like asking for signatures, like these different things. But look, we all have to do it. That's the way to get deals done. And when you really look at it, and you analogize to something like Spock, even though it sounds kind of funny and silly, sometimes you have to use these different analogies to sort of handle yourself and think from what's workable or what's needed in that situation. And it works like a charm. But I think a lot of people's in sales, their confront level is too low. They're not willing to do the things that they know they need to do. They're not willing to push through the awkwardness. And so they could sort of give in to the emotion or the fear or the anxiety or whatever, the foot shuffle associated with what it takes to actually get something done.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people get caught up, salespeople can get caught up, and I get caught up into the motivation of money. And it's great. We should all have money. We should all be flourishing. We should all be successful. Spock would think so, right? He would want everybody to flourish.
Flourish and prosper.
Absolutely. Yeah. When we get caught up in that motivation, we get caught up in targets that are like, oh my God, if it's not done, then blah, 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 it's bad, or something like this, or we've got to make certain targets, or I need to do something personal.
Yeah.
Another thing about Spock is that he was very much concerned for the greatest good of all. And so if you take that viewpoint into it, now of course, even anybody's going to encounter where they did not put enough future in front of them to the point where they get worried about what's going to happen next. So to the degree that you haven't put enough future out in front of you is the degree that you're gonna start to like, oh my gosh, I need to get something done right away. And so to that degree, it's going to cause you to sort of be off your game and not be able to go into a cycle with some logic and with some very cool, calm attitude and just get something done. So, you know, but even that aside, because even the greatest salespeople in the world are going to encounter these bumps where they haven't like suddenly, for whatever reason, and it doesn't matter why, and not enough is put out in front of you so that you start to feel uncomfortable and start to worry and start to get into this sort of nagging thing, you know. And so it helps sometimes to have another person just tell you, here's your exact direction.
Yeah.
Go and do these steps and report back to me. And then you can go, okay, I'm going to go do those steps and then I'm going to report back.
But then you have to do them, right? You have to go and do them. Like, you have to see it through and go and do them. And a lot of people don't. They let the fear or considerations or anxiety or foot shuffle, whatever you want to call it, whatever it is, we all know what that thing is. But it's that thing that stops you. And it's that thing that Spock doesn't have, right? Right? He doesn't have that thing.
Right.
He just has order, action.
Yeah.
I just did that.
Right.
Right? And that's the thing that is incredibly effective in sales. When you're selling, that thing is like, you need to essentially act as if you don't have that whole ball of whatever that is, that emotion that goes on with human beings. You need to get rid of that and go full Spock and really go like if you didn't have any of that function, if it was gone, what would you do? And then you just write that down and you go, okay, good, I would do blah 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 blah, and then you need to just go and do that, right? And it's a game changer. And when you start doing that and you do it in volume, you do it in quantity, you do it in the right level, you can get so much more done. And I tell you, one of the biggest weaknesses I see with a lot of salespeople and a lot of entrepreneurs that I know, they're riddled by that ball of emotion or whatever, that this thing is blocking so much traffic because the level of abundance, the level of just sheer abundance out there and things that can get done and things that can be done is just limited by yourself. And if you can control your head game or mental toughness or emotion, this thing, and you get rid of that thing and you go full Spock, and then you just analytically or logically decide what you're going to do, and then you just go and do it. You make sure that you do it, and you do it in the right level of volume. The amount of things you can get done is mind-blowing. You know, you can get a huge amount done, but most people don't, because they're so owned. They're so owned by this thing, right? Completely owned. Like, it just is owning them.
And I had one of the salespeople that he's doing great and coming up and all this stuff. And just the other day, he called me up and he goes, so here's what's going on with this prospect, right? And he was basically giving me something where he's like, here's a major problem. You know, here, I don't know what to do, but I don't know what to do about this. And the answer that was simply, well, we need to call them, we need to walk them through the proposal, and we need to handle any concerns that come up, right? But what was actually stopping this person, in after I sort of picked apart a few things and sort of found out what was going on, was that he knew there was going to be a challenge, and this is really, really weird. I felt this many times, and I believe he was feeling it at the time. If I don't say the exact right thing on this very next phone call, then they will not do it, and I will lose this client that I feel I could have, but it's this hair wire walk. But if you go into it thinking that at all, then you're going to feel this thing and it's going to lock you up. And he just wasn't actually trying to get a hold of the person enough.
Yeah, so therefore,
stopped him dead.
Therefore the action is take no action.
Yeah, because if I took any action, I might discover immediately it's not happening.
Yeah, so the solution that's put out there is take no action.
Take no action.
Right.
And that another thing that Rob just mentioned was write down what you're going to do. And this is, it took me a long time to really take that in, because I'm like, I'm wasting time. I can't sit around and write down these lineups and write down all this stuff, because these are things I'm just going to go do. No, you write it down, and you write it down, and then you know what you're going to do. Sometimes I'll write out scripts, and not to say something verbatim or give somebody a sales pitch, but so that I can keep my head on exactly my purpose and my goal. I'll write down what I'm going to say. So you write out your points of what you're going to cover, and then you pick up the phone, and then you cover them. You cover them in a voicemail, you cover them with a person. And look, We don't succeed 100% of the time, so you have to go ahead anyway. It doesn't matter.
Absolutely. Good planning is good outcome. Good planning, good execution. Poor planning, poor outcome. Poor planning, poor execution, right? Plan it, methodical, go do it. You have to execute on it, right? You have to go and do it. You have to execute. Otherwise, nothing's going to happen. But the solution, I assure you, is not when all that emotion comes up and all that other stuff and worry about these different things. And then the solution that you present yourself is do nothing. I mean, it's just a lose-lose battle. It's just a lose-lose situation. It's a lose-lose outcome.
So there is something in preparedness. There is something in getting things written down. There is something in knowing how to handle concerns as they come up. There is that. But, like when I started out with Richter, I went into most calls expecting people to sign up. And then when they would give me an objection or concern, I'd be like, well, I don't know. It was good talking to you, Fred. I'll talk to you another time. Like, I had no idea. So there is something to preparedness in terms of being able to be this way. But it doesn't matter where you are on the preparedness scale, and it doesn't matter where you are on do I have enough abundance to feel safe and secure. Just setting aside our concerns and taking action is essential.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hope that helps. Apply this week. Go full Spock and get your deals closed. Be analytical and go and take action on those things. Okay?
Live long and prosper.
And subscribe to the show by clicking the red button, and follow us on Twitter at The Quarter Show, and hashtag The Quarter. Search for other episodes on YouTube and Twitter and things like that. Okay? Thanks. Keep the lip on.